Before we start this video, a large thank you to this human whose name I unfortunately cannot pronounce. If one of you guys in the comments could give me some pronunciation, that would be greatly appreciated. Bernard, Ben, Nico, Tommy, Samit, Nathan, Sir Maxwell, Nathan Lai, and Dimitri for their support on Patreon. I hope you guys enjoy the video.
And a special thank you to Albright for their immense support to this channel on Patreon.
Hello guys, and today we are going to add the health bar for our boss. So first we're going to need to make a boss. I'm just going to go to the enemy character we have conveniently positioned right here. I'm going to duplicate him. I'm just going to drag him back here and turn him around a little bit so he's kind of facing the doorway. There we go. And I'm going to put him right back here. And I'm going to just increase his size for dramatic effect by, I don't know, like 25 or 35%. Let's just call this boss. And the scale here, I'm just going to set it to 1.35. And we'll do that all across the board here for the X, Y, and Z scaling components. Okay, now he's a bit taller and looks a bit more intimidating. I'm just going to hide the enemy character over here by unchecking this box. And now under the boss, I'm going to drag it up here. And we're going to get started on situating our world to support a boss event. So first, let's right-click and create a UI canvas game object in this scene. I'm just going to call this a world canvas, and each of the scenes in the game will have one of these. And I'm going to double-click on that and go to 2D view so we get our UI view set up here. I'm just going to make a new empty game object. I'm going to call this boss health bar. And then I'm going to make a new game object below that, but first I'm going to size it to the exact size I would like the health bar of the boss to be. So we'll say like this much. That looks good. Make it a bit longer actually. Yeah, that looks pretty good. We'll try to center that the best we can. Okay. And now we're going to want to make another empty game object under this. And we're going to call this the health bar. And we're going to make a slider on this. Let's first hit Alt and then click this little thing in the corner here to make it the exact same size as the game object it sits under. Let's take our slider, let's uncheck is interactable, and let's make no transition and no navigation. And we're just going to want a fill here, so let's first make another UI image. Let's Alt click, make it the same size as this bar. I'm going to call this my health bar background. Going to make this all black, or actually I'll make it the same color as my UI, so we'll just make it the same color as this over here. And again, this will be what's below the health bar after it drains. And then seated under this, we're going to make our health bar fill. So let's right click under here and let's create a UI image. Alt click so it takes on the same size as the image it sits under. And let's make that a darker red in my case. You make whatever color you'd like. And then we're just going to call this health bar fill. And we're going to drag this into the fill component of the slider up here. Okay, and now, as you can see, we do have a giant health bar on the screen. We're going to also have to add a text component to this that will change depending on the boss's name. So let's go to UI. Let's add text. Just going to call this, again, scaling it to the same size first. And then I'm just going to drag it up a little bit above. So it sits just above the health bar here. I'm just going to put in name right here. Going to make the... Let's put that in the center, and I don't know if I want it sitting on the left or the middle, but whatever's fine. Let's make the text white so we can see it easily. I only have one kind of font. Let's up the font size quite a bit. Let's say 28. It's probably good. Let's check the size. Probably got to increase the size of this. Yep. Okay, let's just drag that up. There we go. Looks good. Okay, I think in Dark Souls the name is to the left. Not like it really matters. You can put it wherever you want. I might put mine in the middle, though. I think that looks better. Yeah. Okay, let's do that. All right, so let's rename this game object to boss name. And we're going to edit this too when we actually load our boss into the world. So let's go to the boss health bar, the main game object, and make a new script. Let's just call this UI. And then let's just say boss health or boss health bar. All right, now let's open up Visual Studios. Let's put our namespace in. Mine's SG. And let's erase the start and update functions. All right, so we're going to start out by saying we're going to use unityengine.ui because that's how we're going to be able to edit the text field. So up top here, we'll start out by saying public text, and we're going to say boss name. And then we're going to say public void set boss name. And we're going to pass a string of the name. And we're just going to say boss name.text equals name. So that's how we're going to set our name from whatever's calling out a function. And then we're going to say public void set UI health bar to active. So this is how you trigger it being active in the scene, because as you know, the health bar isn't always active. It's only when you start the boss fight. So below the text variable, let's say slider, and then we're just going to call it slider, and we're going to call it an awake. We'll say slider equals get component in children. And then we're uptype slider. Okay, sounds good. Now we're going to say slider.gameObject.setActive is true. Now right below that, let's say public void set boss max health. And we're going to pass an int for the max health. And we're going to set the size of the slider. We're going to say slider.max value is equal to the max health. And then slider.current value is equal to max health. Or it would just be value equals max health. So we're going to call this function too when the boss fight starts. It sets the slider to the boss's maximum health and sets it to full. And then we can make another function called set boss current health. And every time the boss gets hit, we'll call this function. And we'll pass the current health of the boss, and we'll change the slider value to the current health. Okay, and that is most of the function done. And the reason why we have this script on top and then our slider below is because basically we want to deactivate just the slider, but keep the boss health bar component active in the scene. So we can turn off this, but still have the boss health bar active, so the script is still attached to it and it's still active. So yeah, we're gonna have this off during the game, but we're actually gonna turn that off via the start method, because if we turn it off first, we won't be able to get the slider component. I don't think it won't call. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna say start, and we're gonna say set game object active false. So we'll start the scene with it active. It will get the slider component on awake, and then it will turn the game object off. Because if it starts off, as I just said, with the game object not active in the scene, I don't think it will be able to get the slider component. And then we're going to make another function called public void set health bar to inactive. And we'll just say slider.gameObject.setActive is equal to false. If you wanted to, you could even just now erase what you have in the start method, and you could just copy and paste this if you want to be a bit more neater about it. Okay, and save that. Okay, now on the boss, let's add a script called enemy boss manager. And bosses in Dark Souls, they're kind of their own beasts. Each and every one of them are kind of a bit different. They all work on the similar concept of they have phases. Some have two. Some of the DLC bosses have several. So these scripts are gonna handle that basic component of switching phases and then switching the attacks in those phases, because when the bosses switch phases, a lot of times their attack patterns will change too. So that's all well and good. But we're also going to have to do a bit of tailoring and customizing for each individual boss. So this is going to handle our general functions. For example, the name, switching out our attacks, and updating our health bar and stuff. So let's have a variable here called UI boss health bar, or called boss health bar of type UI boss health bar. And on awake, we'll just say boss health bar equals find object of type. And we're going to look in the scene, and there should only be one in the scene, one boss per area. If there's more than one per area, you will want to just drag it in as a public variable in the inspector. And then we could say private void start, and we're going to say, we're going to make a public string here for the boss's name. And on start, we're going to say boss health bar dot set boss name, and we'll pass our boss's name. So then the health bar will be set, at least for the name. And we also want to pass the health values to the health bar. So let's get that happening right now. Right below UI boss health bar, let's call upon our variable enemy stats of type enemy stats. So let's get the enemy stats component. Let's just say get component, because it sits in the same game object as this script. And now our enemy stats is where we have our health, all that jazz. So we can say boss health bar dot set max health. We can pass enemy stats dot max health. Now I think we have to, let's go to the enemy stats here in a second, because I believe we're also calling our setter stats on start. So we might have to call set stats on awake instead. So let's call our boss. What are we gonna call him? Let's call him Sir Forkface. Okay. So now let's go back to the UI boss health bar script, and on awake, we're going to say boss name is equal to get component in children text. And that'll get us the text component. And now, let's go check out our enemy stats script. Yeah, okay, here we go. So on start, they're both being called in start. We need to get our stats before we set our stats. Otherwise, we'll be setting a stat of 0. So just change that to the start method. And now, or the awake method rather. And now if I go in the game here and I hit the button, we have Sir Forkface, and there's his health bar. Before we go into pursue target state. We're erasing this. I don't like it. Let's get rid of this, returning to rotate state. We're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to go into the game here, and what you want to do if you want to increase the speed at which the enemy rotates with the nav mesh agent, go down to your nav mesh agent and change the acceleration speed from 8 to about 26, and make sure your angular speed is at least 500. And now you'll see when the enemy attacks us, I'll run now so he goes to the pursue target state. You see he doesn't do that weird little turny thing anymore. He's actually turning very fast now. And if you want him to turn faster rather, just increase your acceleration speed and the angular speed. But that looks good. So now we have the basis for our boss. We have a health bar set up. We're going to keep adding on to this as the videos come on. We will cover a fog wall. We will cover damaging the boss and updating the health bar. And we will cover what happens if you die in the boss and you've already started the boss event. A lot more things to come. So if you did like this video, be sure to drop a like, leave a comment. It does help appease YouTube algorithm gods. And if you're feeling super generous, check out my Patreon below. I will see you guys in the next one.